Hi. How many of y'all remember the Richard Marx song and the video Hazard? Well, if you weren't a teenager in the 90s, you're not going to remember the song or the video. But always a new generation of fans are rediscovering this song and the video, thanks to YouTube, now that on TV music videos have become a thing of the past. But this was in the 90s, back when music videos were still a thing. Richard Marx is a talented singer, and he's always been a talented songwriter with his unique style of telling stories in his songs, most of them. And Hazard was no exception. He wanted to write he's always been a big fan of murder mysteries and tragic love stories, and that's what Hazard was, a combination of the two. But he said the more he put the song together, the more he thought it wasn't going to sell. No, he thought, oh, this is not gonna be a big hit. It's not even gonna last a second on shelves. But his then wife, Cynthia Rhodes, best known as Penny from Dirty Dancing, said, "Oh, I think the song's gonna be a big hit. I think it's gonna be your biggest hit ever." So he put it out there just to prove her wrong. But in the end, he was the one proven wrong. Now, what got me interested in this is when he was on VH1 hosting the video, said, "Hi, I'm Richard Marx, and this is the video to my song Hazard, and let's see if you can find out who killed Mary." And when he does that, I'm like, oh, I think I better take a look. And the haunting melody and the way the video was filmed, it really just gets in your head. It's like one of those, if you're trying to piece together what happened or who of all sorts. Of course, it's a video. It can't tell you much. It only leaves you, the viewers, guessing to what happened. It just leaves you little clues as possible. The video, what's it about? It's about starts out with this town folks teasing this boy because they're mean, or they thought he was because he's a murderer and thinks he killed his mother, burned her house down. His mother in the video, Richard Marx's mother in the video, is played by Jennifer O'Neill. And when this is a story I heard when he had first approached her about playing his mother in the video, her reaction was like, "I'm not old enough to play your mother." And he said, No, it's going to be in flashbacks. He goes, and then she agreed, "Okay, I could do that." Yeah, I think Jennifer O'Neill has always been a big-time crush for Richard Marx. Now back to the video. So the Richard Marx character is always looked down upon his whole life. I mean, he's been a loner and all that, so forth. And then he meets Mary, played by Renee Parent. Now, I'm only going to say her name, Mary, because nobody else is given a character name in the video, just her. And the two start a very endearing relationship, and then she ends up dead in the river. And the sheriff, played by Robert Conrad, arrests Richard Marx's character because they was pretty sure he did it because of his past. Now realizing they didn't have much to hold him on, they let him go, and Richard Marx discovers his trailer has been burned to a crisp. Well, nothing else for him in that town. He leaves town. He probably had enough money saved up and hopefully finds a better life. He cuts his hair. And that's the end of it. Now, when I looked at the first video, it sort of gives me a hint that Richard Marx's character might be guilty. Because now I know what you're probably going to say. He lost the scarf. And in the song he says, "I swear I left her by the river." But But to me, it never really makes you feel he could be a reliable narrator. Yeah, when the relationship with Mary's going strong, he walks by a car, sees Mary making out with some guy, and you kind of he's upset, and so is she upset that she got caught by him. And then the sheriff shows up, and then he runs away. His scarf gets caught on a branch, and he doesn't bother to retrieve it. He just runs away. Mary is seen later holding the scarf by the river, and she turns around, and we don't know who she's looking at. That's the interesting part about the mystery. We don't. Who is she looking at? Richard Marx's character, the sheriff, or the unnamed guy she was making out with in the car? And here's what thing. I know he lost the scarf on the tree, but she was holding the scarf by the river, and it could have been the Richard Marx character she sees, because the way she turns around and looks at the guy, it's like it's somebody she knows. And it could have been, and he could have killed her, and it could have been reminding him of his mother, because his mother in the past was making out with some guy, and it seemed like she was just totally ignoring her son. It's like she'd rather have sex with some guy than pay attention to her son. And we see the father in a uniform leaving with some woman. And, well, he says his mother came to Hazard when he was just 7. So you could state it. Richard Marx was born in 1963. And if he was 7 in 1970, Vietnam was still going on. So you could say the father was a Vietnam vet. You see him leaving with some woman. Many reasons. Maybe he didn't want to be a father, or and a husband anymore. So he just left with that woman. Or maybe he just couldn't take his wife's extramarital affairs, and she's a sex addict. Those are my assumptions. It just seems like when you see him watching his mom have sex with a guy, she notices him there, but totally ignores him. So maybe, well, we don't see him do this, but maybe it was an accident, or maybe he purposely set the fire just to get her attention. Didn't think she'd burn herself alive. We see him run out of the house, so forth, or maybe he did meant to kill her, but those are my assumptions. But so maybe when the Richard Marx character confronts Mary by the river, maybe in a anger of jealous rage, he strangles her and dumps her body into the river. Now, I know what you're going to say, but like I said, I don't think the video doesn't paint him as a reliable narrator when he says all that. I swear I left her by the river, and then in the interrogation scene with Robert Conrad, and it's clear the sheriff hates his guts. He really has it out for him, and said, well, and he denies he dated her because, I don't know, maybe he doesn't want to associate with Mary anymore. And then he says, how did you tie this around Miss Murray's neck? And you see the Richard Marx character kind of gives this kind of look, cold eye stare, and he doesn't, it seems like he's neither admitting it nor denying it. He's remembering the flashbacks that Mary reminded him of his mother, and that's probably why he killed her. But that's my assumption. And of course, when he's cutting his hair, he sees the ghost of Mary standing by the river. Maybe that's what some killers do. They see victims of their victims. Maybe that was it. But now when we look at Chapter 2, why did they make a Chapter 2? Maybe there was so much deleted footage that that they wanted to use and never did. So they thought, let's make a chapter 2, or let's shed a different light on how Mary might have died. Now, or maybe all of the above, or none of the above. I don't know. Maybe one of the above. Back to chapter 2 of Hazard. Now, the chapter 2 sheds different light on Mary. The video doesn't really shows Mary that she is not looked down on like Richard Marx's character, but she doesn't seem like she's emotionally all there. And she finds comfort with Richard Marx's character because he feels the only person that truly understands her. Of course, the second video shows Richard Marx as a kid cutting his hair, or maybe it was like reliving the same incident with his mother. He sees the ghost of his mother, just as Richard Marx as an adult sees the ghost of Mary. Now, here's when Mary has different dialogue. Of course, in the video, at the end of the first video, she says, "Everybody said I should be afraid of you, but I'm not." But in the second video, here's what it does paint Mary. Says, "Sometimes I feel incredibly lost. I feel like you're the only person that truly understands me." So you got just, and here's my thoughts on what happened. Here's my second thoughts on what happened to Mary in chapter 2. I know what you're probably going to say. Was it Richard Marx that killed her? Was it the sheriff that killed her? Or was it the unnamed man that killed her? Here's my take. None of the above. Mary killed herself. Now, this is not fact. This is my assumption of what I think happened. And when Mary, of course, here's the clues that Mary, when the video does paint Mary as a bit unstable. At the end of this chapter 2, it says, "I don't know what I would do if I lost you as a friend." Well, here's what I think happened at the river. My second thoughts. When she turns around and looks at that camera, I think it's pretty clear it's Richard Marx's character when an argument ensues, saying, "How could you do that to me?" And she's apologizing. "I'm sorry, I just got caught up in the moment. It was just somebody I've known a long time. I've always had a big time crush on him. Could you ever forgive me?" Richard Marx probably says, "Keep the scarf. Maybe that's the only thing you'll remember me by." Then he walks away, but then some part of the video, if it's like blinking, you might miss it. You see her slowly walking into the river. So I think Mary drowned herself. I guess that part where he says, "I swear I left her by the river, I left her safe and sound," and all that stuff. And Robert Conrad, there's more in that interrogation scene where he says, where the guy, I think it was the Inquisitor, says, "Sheriff, you don't have much to hold him on. That river's been stomped on for years. There's no fingerprints on Mary or the scarf. So we're going to write it off as a suicide." So that's what they're gonna do. And of course, the townspeople didn't write it off as a suicide, and and of course it ends pretty much the same. His trailer gets burned down, and he cuts his hair and leaves town, and it's probably a good thing, because if he stayed any longer, the townsfolk would probably form a lynching squad and want to lynch him. And the town sheriff, played by Robert Conrad, hates him with such a passion, said, "No," probably would say, would probably lead on the lynching thing. Now, I know a lot of people would say that that the sheriff killed Mary. I don't think the sheriff did it. Here's my thoughts on that. I think he was hounding Mary because he was trying to warn her about the relationship with Richard Marx, saying she kept trying to say he's dangerous, you should stay away from him. Mary's running away from the police, from the sheriff's car, saying more like she doesn't want to hear it. That's what my thoughts are. And amazingly enough, Robert Conrad was best friends with Richard Marx's father. And unlike the relationship in the video, Richard Marx and Robert Conrad remain good friends throughout the years, even until his passing in 2020 at the age of 84. And I like Renee Parent. She does play Mary pretty well with very little dialogue. She really does show a real character of a real lost soul of a young woman. Now, saying in the second video, why would he see a ghost of Mary if he didn't kill her? Maybe that was his guilt. Maybe, like his mother, feeling in a way he did kill Mary. If he stayed at the river and was more forgiving, maybe Mary would still alive. So I guess in a way he feels like he did kill her. And when he denies he didn't date her, I guess that's his way of saying, I guess that's his point, realizing they were never romantically involved as he figured they were before. They were just friends. They were just two lost souls that needed each other. That's how it paints. But then again, this is just my thoughts and theories. I could be wrong, and you could be out there saying I'm wrong. Now, I heard they were going to make a chapter 3 to Hazard. And they were finally going to come up with the conclusion of how Mary died. Richard Marx said no to that. He didn't want a conclusion of how Mary died. He wanted it to be left up to people's interpretation. Fans' interpretations. And that's what people do today. Richard Marx said people come up to him today saying, did he kill Mary? Did the sheriff kill Mary? Did that unknown man she was making out with kill Mary? Or was it an accident, or did she commit suicide? See, that's how it is. Because he didn't put a conclusion, people still ask that question. I'll give you a prime example of that. Ode to Billy Joe by Bobby Gentry. It was a good, intriguing, haunting melody of a song about why did Billy Joe jump off the Tallahatchie Bridge. And then they make a movie about it, finally answers those questions. And everything that made the magic about what made the song popular disappears. So I don't think that's what Richard Marx wanted for Hazard. But this is my theories on what I think happened to Mary. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are out there who are probably watching or not, probably going to say I'm wrong. But you're entitled to do so. So, that's my thoughts on what happened to Mary in the video Hazard. And I'll pay a tribute to actress Laura Park Lincoln, best known as Tina from Friday the 13th, The New Blood, who passed away. She was a very talented actress. All right, catch you later. Bye-bye.